are so excited here to be here. We're not just excited here, we are excited to be here. My name is Kate Bailey. I'm the founder of Tara. We are a new flex office and membership work club in Denver, transforming the way that women connect business, life, and community in Denver. And we invite all of you to come visit us. Tonight, we are here with you, the women and allies of Denver Startup Week. I hope that you've had a really inspiring week so far. How many people would say that they've had a light switch moment where you kind of learn something you can't unlearn? Love it. Hopefully you have lots more ahead. Hopefully you have a few of those tonight. So tonight we have a very exciting speaker, Sara Hood, AKA Sara Lovestyle. You may know her on the grams. And I'm also here with my Thelma to my Louise, partner in crime, CEO Simone Ross of Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. And it's an honor to host another Stronger Together event for Denver Startup Week. This is actually, so back in 2019 when the world was still a little normal, we hosted with CWCC and a lot of, I think 15 other women's organizations, the original Stronger Together event. I think we had 750 people show up. It was kind of lit. But we are actually here tonight excited to be a little bit more of an intimate setting. I think we've all kind of learned that being in these environments where you can really connect with people is incredibly valuable. And you know, I think that the theme of Stronger Together was this idea of amplifying the voices and highlighting all of the exceptional women entrepreneurs at Denver Startup Week. And you know, they've continued the track, which has been really cool to see, kind of looking at startup entrepreneurship through the lens of diversity and equity and inclusion. You know, to me, that was kind of then, and this is now. And when I started to think about the theme for tonight and what we wanted to talk about, I really started to think, like, you know, what do the women of Denver Startup Week need now? And I think the one thing that we can all agree on is that we do not need empowerment. And we do not need permission to take up space. And yeah, I mean, when you get a bunch of women in the room, like, there's so much power, you can't shut the doors. And there's a lot of voices that are heard, and it's beautiful. So what's next? You know, what's next on this journey? And what I see is that it is access to capital. It's funding, it's resources, and it's particularly true for women of color. We are, actually, it's pretty cool that we are here on Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And let me just explain this to you, because I had to read it a few times, and I believed it, but I couldn't quite believe it. That effectively, a Black woman has to work 9 more months than the average white man to make the same salary. Let that sink in. For Latinas, it's 11, and for Native Americans, it's a whole year. It's double. So that translates to Black women losing almost $1 million over a 40-year career compared to her white male, not competitor, but equivalent. That's the word I was looking for. So that's a big conversation. And I think that, you know, today being that day, that it's worthy to have deeper conversations about that. You know, at Tara, we talk about these things daily, and how can we provide our members and our community with the access to the right resources, new connections to capital. And tonight we get to have that conversation on the Denver Startup Week stage with entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and influencer Sara Lovestyle. And I'm gonna let Simone introduce Sara and have a few more words to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kate. Give it up for Kate and Tara. Tara is the home of CWCC, so come to our house. It's our collective home, located off of 8th and Albion. So shameless plug, but I like visitors.
I love shameless plugs.
Yeah, today is an interesting day, right? As we really reflect on the disparities for women, but specifically for Black women. And so Kate gave some staggering and incredibly depressing statistics that I'm not going to belabor. But then you also have to look at some of the trickle-down things, which is women are leaving and starting their own thing, right? It's like the epitome of F you pay me. If you're not going to pay me, I'm going to find a way to get my equity and to get paid. And one of the ways that they do that is through entrepreneurship. Now, who's all from Colorado? Y'all can scream, do what you want to do. Well, Colorado is the #1 state for women to start businesses. Yeah. It's a lot of pressure being the CEO of the Women's Chamber. I've got a lot of work to do. But what do you need when you start a business? Money, 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 money. Y'all didn't come here for that, but you're going to get it. You need money. You need capital. And so what we do find when we think about the disparities in women starting businesses is access to capital. And one of the key things that we also know is that there are not enough women at the table pulling up their proverbial chair and all those things to ensure that women founders are getting funded. And so women are starting businesses in record numbers. Black women are starting businesses in record numbers because pay equity, because hashtag an archaic business architecture, because hashtag family work-life balance that just ain't it in corporate ecosystems, and also because we've realized our badassery and we're on our Nike tip. Just do it, sis. Just do it. So, I am excited to bring to you and introduce you a woman who said, just do it. But she is doing it as a 21st century business leader. And I think that that's something that we're going to dig into tonight on a deeper level. Because we have all of these weird frameworks for like, what is it to be a business leader? Well, you have to do all these things that are businessy. But what we're doing within the work as leaders is we are breaking down those societal norms that really aren't so normal because it's not working for 2.2 million women in the workforce. We're breaking those down to say, what is a 21st century business leader? And so if I had to answer that question and pontificate with a room full of my closest friends that came here just to see us, I would say a 21st century business leader leans into the yes and. And that is something in business that we were told not to do so much, right? It was always, okay, but. And so when I think about Sara Hood, Sara Lovestyle, she is a woman who leans into the yes and. Yes, she is passionate about fitness. And she uniquely explores health as more than a lifestyle. She's created a lovestyle to inspire us all to care about fitness. Yes, she's a Sudanese refugee, and she leads, creates, innovates, and inspires with that lived experience as a tool for her creativity. And I don't know about y'all, but when I was working in corporate, they did not want me bringing my lived experience into that boardroom. But think about what you can create when you do that. Yes, she is a mother, and she is a fierce and savvy businesswoman who lives a lifestyle that supports having it all on her terms, which is critical when we think about the workforce story. When women have a seat at the investment table, when women have a seat at the table, women are amplified, women are getting funded, women are innovating and creating. And so that's what we are here to talk about. So y'all better clap and cheer and act a whole fool right now for Sara Hood, also known as Sara Lovestyle.
Ooh, that was one heck of an introduction.
Welcome to Denver.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's dive into this. As a woman, and, because remember, we're talking about the yes and a woman of color, and a mom, a businesswoman, and a venture capitalist, how does the world receive you? What is the authentic story of self that you want the world to know?
If you would have asked me that question 5 years ago when I started the brand, I would have said I don't know. That would have been my honest truth. Even as an entrepreneur, it's a reflection of identity. It's trying to figure out who am I while also allowing people to see the good, the bad, the ugly of that journey. but will anyone even care? And so for me, I mean, you know my story. I started the brand because I was mad. I was angry. I have an autistic son who's nonverbal. He got hurt at school. And I remember having a conversation with God, the universe, whatever you believe in, and being like, I am mad. I need you to do something with this. And who am I supposed to be in the middle of all of it? And it was like instantly, he doesn't have a voice, but you do. But I was like, would anyone care about what I had to say, and how would the world see me? And I got to this place called F It. And when I got there, and I say it to myself at least once a day, when I got to F It is when I started social media. And then it was my story of talking about how I was a refugee born in Sudan. My parents are Ethiopian. I had a heart attack when I was 23. You have all of these lived experiences, and I realized that people could identify within my story. They could identify themselves in some part of it, and it's not sexy in business. However, it's what's made me successful, is being able to show up. I mean, it sounds really cliche, but authentically as myself, and it was enough.
I want to dig a little bit more into that kind of sense of authentic self and talk about your journey as a venture capitalist, and kind of talk through how did you get to that point? How did you get to that phase? What were all of the kind of breadcrumbs of your life that led to that decision?
Have y'all listened to Guy Raz with How I Built This? And he always asks a question at the end, and he says, how much of it was luck and how much of it was hard work? And you need both. And in my career, I had that. The first investment that I made 3 years ago was an accidental butt dial. A friend of a friend I hadn't spoke to in a couple years says my name in a room, says she'd be a great influencer for this company. To be honest, I was like, they couldn't afford to pay me, so I was like, nah, I'm not gonna take the call. And then 2 weeks later, it was an accidental butt dial. And he says, actually, while I have you on the phone, because I was like, let me not be a douchebag, let me take the call. And that one phone call changed my life. But then it went from that one to being unsure if my voice mattered, like we talked about earlier. Would my voice matter once I got the seat at the table? And I wasn't sure if I was even good enough or qualified enough to speak in that room once I got there. And I realized it was okay for me not to be the smartest person. Like, it was okay. And I just asked questions, which then builds trust with everybody in the room, and then they recommend, and then something else, and then it's this weird domino effect once you get into the circle, that I realized once I found my place and my niche and what I specialized in and what I was exceptional at, the deal flows just kept coming, which I'm 27 for 27, I'm just saying, on investments. Like, I am good at this. And I realized, oh, I am that itch. Like, I can do this, which then led to someone introducing me to a venture capitalist, asked would I be interested, and I said, absolutely. And because I love the mission of Broad Street Ventures, it funds primarily Black and brown women, men, and it gives us an opportunity to invest in companies that typically we would not be a part of the conversations, or we wouldn't even know about.
Beautiful. No, that's a big thing. It's funny Kate mentioned 2019, because in 2019, a lot of the women's conversations at Denver Startup Week were imposter syndrome.
Empowerment.
Yes, and empowerment and mentoring. Oh, it's so unicorns and like puppy dogs, because we need to get over our imposter syndrome. And so what we didn't really talk about in that was that, in fact, it's not a me problem as a woman, as a Black woman. It's actually a systemic problem. And so I don't actually really need to do anything other than progress systemic change so that people that look like me will actually understand me, hear my story, and get it, and help to progress me. And so now, I mean, we took a couple years off. It's what, 2022, Olivia? Okay.
3 years.
So, 2023, don't do that. In 2022, now we are having a conversation where we are seeing women stand up and say, I'm a venture investor. I'm a founder. I'm walking away from this piece with $20K in dollars from the pitch contest. And so I want to ask you this, because now it's like a space where we're coming in, like hot fire. What do you think needs to change to convince more women to enter the world of angel investment and venture capital?
There's this notion that we have to know everything. Build the plane as you're flying. Get in the room. There's a saying, if you can't get in the room, serve water. Like, figure it, you have to get into the room. If you need to serve to get into that space, do that. I'm trying to be PC about what I want to say next.
Nobody needs to be PC. Is anybody's ears? Close your ears. Don't be PC.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad.
We have legalized pot here, so there's no.
And everybody signed a waiver.
Have you sniffed around outside? We're not like. It's not our thing. PC, we don't do that.
There's a formula that I use in influence that I use in how I invest, either private angel or with the VC. And it's 4 things: find, intrigue, keep, convert. I thought my greatest weakness was the fact that let's be honest, I don't have a financial background. That's not what I do. That's not what my degree is in. However, as an influencer, if I could do those 4 things, I'm successful as AF. Like that, I'm winning at those things. When I realized it operates the same way, we overcomplicate the process. Everyone just assumes that it's just large, massive thing that they can't figure out. It's really not. Can you find your customer base? Can you find your audience? Can you intrigue them? What is it about you, your product, your service? What is it about it? And can you communicate that well? The third thing is, can you keep them? Now you have me as a customer. What are you going to do with me? What does your funnel look like? Can you get the testimonials? Can you convert them over and over and over again? It's really that simple. And then if you can get them to convert as an influencer or as a customer, you are now making, let's be honest, we're in the business to make money. But if you can't convert, everything else doesn't matter.
So in light of that kind of find, somebody write this down for me, please. Find, intrigue, keep, and convert. Tell us a little bit about kind of the thing that, because you're also an entrepreneur, right? So I think that one of the things that I found really unique about you is that a lot of people that roll into venture capital and funding and whatnot, that they aren't always necessarily entrepreneurs themselves. And so how has that lens of being an entrepreneur helped to inform some of those successful ventures that you've backed?
And I want you to tell us a little bit about your businesses, because I think we all kind of geek out on that stuff. So tell us. It's a very long question, but the mic is yours. Tell us about your business,
and then, great, thank you.
This is why we're Thelma and Louise.
So the overarching is Sara Incorporated, which houses Sara Lovestyle. It houses a new podcast that's coming out that I can't talk about quite yet, with the dopest guests that just, it's the best of the best in the industry. There's Blay & Bell, which is my spice company that's named after my father. And what am I missing, Anicia? Oh, and then all the investments. There's Moon Ultralight, there's Rhapsody, but I said like EdTech, FinTech, EdTech, FinTech, CPG, we're everywhere.
And then, did you all hear all that? All that bosses, because y'all wasn't clapping.
That's not just one, that's like 12.
Right, I'm like,
That's
all
like
that
12.
bossedness is a lot. So, but I love that, right? Because that's yes and, and we've always been taught, like, you can only be this, or you can only be that, or you can only do this, or you can only do that. And
Only
so,
one vertical, only one this. Yep.
exactly, or you
Yep.
can only be the woman. So,
Can I answer that?
yeah.
Or can I add to that? The greatest struggle of my career early on was people telling me, pick one thing. I just had to be one thing. I couldn't have it all. I couldn't be in multiple industries. I couldn't invest. You're supposed to stay in your lane. I am my lane. I believe in
Ooh,
and.
somebody write that down too.
I invest in the things that I believe in. Every single one has a purpose and a mission that is specific to me. So I will always add and. I went into sports and entertainment when everyone told me not to. I have made investments where every single, no offense to the men, every single man told me no, and I was out of my mind. But I remember walking in and saying, I'm not asking you for permission. I am telling you what I'm doing. It's a courtesy, but we're going to do this.
No, but that's like the perfect segue, right? Because I think as women, certainly as a woman of color, I know from my lived experience, it's been for a large part of it a life of asking permission. And then when you have that effort where you're like, wait a minute, I'm not getting much traction by asking permission. And quite frankly, I don't intend to really ask for much forgiveness because I'm doing this for me. It funnels into that because I hear a lot of women say, like, I don't have the confidence, I don't have the courage, how do I ask for funding? What would your advice be for a woman who does need to get that courage to just put out the ask? And maybe it's not asking, or to even do what you did and say, you know what, this is what we're about to do.
It's not going to be a nice answer. No one is going to believe in your product or service as much as you do. Respectfully, no one cares. And a lot of times, it's even the investors. It's VCs. At the end of the day, everyone else cares about the money. Why don't you? You can't build a company with wishes, and you can't. You have to ask for what you want. And do you care enough about your product or service? Do you care enough about your business? And let's be honest, if you have a business and you can't ask for the money, when I say it like this, you know it's about to get real. This is how my mama used to do me.
She said it would get real, so.
If you know in your heart and you have a reason for your product or service and you need the funding, you are doing the world a disservice. You're doing your customer base a disservice. You are doing everyone around you a disservice. You really should look in the mirror and be like, dang, I am letting someone down. Whose life are you changing? Do you actually care enough? If you can't find the courage to ask for the money that you know you need to build this, do you care enough? Do you really want this? Because the journey is hard. The journey sucks. There will be tears in the shower. There will be moments of screaming. There will be times where you're like, I don't want to effing do this anymore. I'm tired. So when you get to that point, what do you do? Do you quit? Then don't get into entrepreneurship. Then this isn't for you. What is it that you have that you owe society and everyone else and your brother or your sister next to you? Ask for it. And respectfully, the men don't struggle asking for money. And we undersell how much money we actually need. If you need $500,000, you ask for $600,000. If you need $1 million, you say you need $1.5 million. And then as women, we're told that we feel grateful to have gotten some money. Heck no, you've earned it. You deserve it. Own it. Own the fact that you need it. Walk in the room and be like, I'm doing you a favor. Like when I walk into a room as an entrepreneur and I need the money, I walk in with the confidence that you need me. I may not have $5 in the bank account for that business, but I'm doing you as a VC or you as an investor a favor by investing in my company. That is the level of confidence that we need walking into the room.
So, and I'm sorry, Kate, because I want to just kind of dig into the nomenclature, because we're using words up here that I just want to make sure everybody is very intimate, right? Because we all about to leave out of here with the bag. So if you can quit, for real, that's the blessing I'm going to put over your life.
Amen.
So, I mean, truly, I want us to understand the nomenclature. Can you talk about the difference between an investor, like bank funding, venture funding? Because unless y'all are like, Simone, don't treat us like this today, I think we need to really get very clear on what this is, and when we're talking about asking for funding, like what should we be asking for? This is just a disclaimer. This is from the words of Sara Lovestyle. This is not a, this is in her opinion what these definitions are, and go.
It's funny that you mentioned being on both sides of the table. So even with investments, I sit on all three. So I do private investing, which is me personally, my money. I decide what deals I'm going to do. The PE firm that I work with, it's a family firm, the private equity firm. It's a whole bunch of rich folks that have come together collectively, put their money in. Somebody on the team decides where we're going to invest. A VC is very similar. They're similar. They're not that different. But the difference is the stages in which they invest. I would say that one of the mistakes I see with pitches is founders will go to a VC or private equity too soon. When you're netting quite a few $100 million is when you would go to a VC, or when there's a lot of money that's coming. That's when you would go to a VC. But it's the private is early stage. I tend to stay in the seed like before a Series A. VCs don't come in until Series B, C's, D's, A, B, C, D, F, G.
E, F, G. That kind of segues into the next question, actually, is kind of going back to my intro about access to those resources, access to the people, to the connections that so many entrepreneurs don't have. And so, one of the conversations that we have over and over and over again is, I just need funding, I need to find funding, I need to find funding. And so what kind of, maybe 2 or 3 things would you share with entrepreneurs who are bootstrapping, don't necessarily have those network connections to traditional forms of capital? What do you say to them?
I'm going to give you Stalker 101. And I lived this through influence. For example, as an influencer, let's say I want to work with, I think Amazon's a sponsor. I would go to LinkedIn and I would find out who is running their operations, where do they hang out, what do they do. I did the same thing in the investment world. Find the companies that you like, find out where, for example, if there's somebody that I happen to meet at your spot, where do you guys hang out? Typically it's cigar bars, it's happy hour, it's the golf course, it's the country club. I stalk them. And then I just happen to be there.
Can we turn off the video?
Not in a creepy way, but you build, it's relationship building, it's networking, it's,
I think that's exactly, thank you for that, because it is the network that you build. And I think that one of the things that, post-pandemic, I mean, thank you all for coming out for Denver Startup Week. Like, this is a really big deal to get people back in the room together. This stuff doesn't happen on Zoom. You can't stalk people on Zoom. That's really, really hard.
It's a little creepy.
That's really hard. And I mean, just like jumping into people's rooms and, like hacking into conversations. But I do appreciate that, because I think that we're all kind of trying to learn how to get back into the world again. And so what do you do to go and find some of those private deals? Like, are you out there actively, are you on Instagram looking for products that you like and then going and actually, contacting them? Is it just coming through, to you through contacts? How do you find some of those deals?
Both. So for the most part, they come to me. However, when it comes to, again, I'm trying to PC, because if we were having this conversation privately, I would say something very different. You want the real answer? Oh, I like it. No.
Question was, how do you find those deals, especially the private ones? Because obviously the PE companies and venture capital firms are coming to you with deals. So how do you find some of those deals that you personally invested in?
So the ones that come to me are emailed referrals, friends, my network. There's 2 that I did from Clubhouse. Somebody was just bold enough to talk about their business, and nobody else saw the vision of this founder. And I'm like, are you people effing kidding me? Are y'all dumb? Like, this thing is amazing. This founder is phenomenal. So I side messaged the founder, and I said, hey, are you raising? And he said, yes, and nobody would help me raise. It took me an hour, helped him raise $1.2 million. Like, it's finding that one piece of the puzzle that will change the entire trajectory of a founder. And for me, if I can see that a founder is scrappy and they're just fearless and they're tough, and you truly believe in your company mission and what it's supposed to do and what your place is in the world or in business, that's the founder I'm gonna go for every single time. I'd rather have an asshole founder who's like stands their ground in what it is that they do than to have somebody that's timid and unsure, because now I don't have the faith or the trust that you're gonna be able to see this through when it gets rough. But I love studying founders all the time. Even if they're deals that I wouldn't do, then I pass them off to my friends or to my network. But yeah, I got one today actually that was really, really dope. They slid in my DMs.
Beautiful. I want to open this up because we've got about 20 more minutes, and I bet there's some good questions in the audience. But Simone, I want to give you a chance if you got anything else.
No, I just think that she's just touched on so many incredible things, right? I mean, as women entrepreneurs, women seeking funding, a key piece is that we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't give ourselves enough permission, and we oftentimes don't give ourselves just the leeway to be kind and understanding that you don't have to know everything, but you know what you know, and you kick ass and you know those things, and you walk into that room because there's only one you. And I think that that's the piece that Steve, hopefully none of y'all's name is Steve, but y'all know the Steves. That's the thing that Steve has, right? Steve every time gets that bag because Steve is like, I'm Steve. Don't you see me? I'm Steve. And we're like, oh, my company's only netting like 1.2, and I don't think I'm a CEO yet. Like, fuck that. Go out there and go get it. Yes. Okay, it looks like there's an audience question. And shout out to Steve, though. We love you, Steve.
We love you, Steve. We love you, Steve.
One time for Steve.
Questions. I'm gonna play Vanna for a minute.
Oh, there's right over there.
Oh,
you got it right
we got a mic?
Good.
Yeah,
I
excellent.
do. Hi there. Thanks for your story. I'm Alison. I'm the founder of a B2B SaaS company. It occurs to me, and I'm Australian, so I'm just going to say it like it is. So, you know, I don't care if you're videoing it. I'm not from here. It occurs to me that when we talk about funding and access to funding, we're still talking about playing the same game, right? Mm-hmm. We're saying, VCs are saying, we'll open the door a little wider and maybe we'll give you 4% next year rather than 2%, right? Aren't we playing the same game? Shouldn't there be a way of just totally challenging the paradigm? Like, as a founder, I just don't want to play that bullshit game. I don't want to spend 6 months going and talking to these wankers who will just...
Yeah.
Let's build a new game. Let's just say we're not doing this game. And if you're serious as a VC, then fucking meet us where we are. And don't make us come and do the same game. And really, you're not changing anything. You're still applying the same lens to evaluate us. Did you go to Harvard? Who do you know? Who's in your team? Who's your CTO? Do we know them? Yeah? That's just... What's the new game?
It's making a new sandbox for ourselves to go play in. Yeah, and Sara and I were actually just talking about this in the green room, and that is why we brought her here tonight, to show that there are different sandboxes. So I'm going to let you talk to that.
As scared as I was going into VC, I knew that I had the responsibility, and it sounds so cliche and I hate saying it. When the seat was available, I took it for that very reason. Because as an entrepreneur, it was damn near impossible for me to raise. And I knew that what I had was, you know your business. I can create a pitch deck better than just about anybody. I have the network, and I still struggled to raise because I was forced to prove probably 3, 4, 5 times more than my male counterparts. And then on top of that, I'm a Black woman. So I had to, it almost had to be 100% sure when the game it's not even played that way. There's no perfect investment. There's no, there's no crystal ball for that. But I took the role for that reason because I needed to change the sandbox. I needed to change. And I know we have with Broad Street, which is why I joined that particular venture over the others. We're not playing that game. I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of it. So I hear you. I'm with you. Trust me, as an entrepreneur, I understand it. But that's the goal: is how do we create something different, and how do we play a different game, while still making sure that not only are women being funded, but we're also getting exits. Like, let's get the hell up out of there and get the money.
All right, we need yours. I obviously cursed it. I don't know what happened.
Thank you so much for being here. Can you give us some examples of how you're not playing the game? Because we hear that so much as founders, and as I work with founders all the time, and it's like we hear the talk, and I also have stories of local awesome women-focused investment firms who my friends have applied for, and they haven't heard back from them, and they feel like it's the same game, you know. But the firm is saying, we don't play the game. You know what I mean? So do you have any concrete examples for us?
Is your friend only going to firms? And not to private investors?
I'm not sure. This is someone that I just shared a resource with, and she went and applied, and then she told me that she hadn't heard back. So
yeah. If I were your friend, I would, and depending on what stage of their company they're in, if it were me, I would reach out to, if I had to do this all over again, I would not go to a firm. I would go to private investors. So I can for sure speak to that. So all of my investment, my personal investments, are all men and women of color and women. That's it. And you see how many we got, like 17? And they're all men and women of color, and they're all women. And actually, one of the companies was Techstars. Were they here earlier? One of the companies is Danielle's their founder. She's absolutely incredible. She's the co-founder of Upwardly. We have Ed, who is the founder of Moon Ultralight. We have David, who's head of Simwin. So I mean, I could keep going. But I know for me that's important, so that's how I invest. And with Broad Street, it's a mix of. But also it depends on what firm are you reaching out to. Like if that particular firm, if you're in tech, but they only do a specific realm of tech, then it's not going to be a good fit.
Well, and I think that, Allie, and I appreciate the question. I think that like the sandbox isn't going to change overnight. It's literally, this is going to take, and I'm sorry to admit this is going to take decades, because it is one piece of the Lego stack at a time, and we are dealing with hundreds of years of not being at the table, and it is not anybody's fault. Like, let's not get mad about it, let's just change it, right? Like, we just need to start to have more people that look like Sara, that look like us in that room to make those decisions. And it is going to take a painfully long time, but I'm just glad that we're starting somewhere new.
Yeah, and I think too, you have to look at the investment committee, right? And so it's very, very rare that there's a diversified investment committee at any of these tables. When you talk about changing the game, a key piece of that, and sadly it's going to take a very long time, is diversifying that investment committee. And then also researching who the hell the holding company is. Correct. And so we're not asking some of those very critical questions, but remember, it's just a great PSA to you beautiful people out there. You all have the power to amplify and activate your voice. If in fact it is a firm, but it's being held by a holding company that is not diverse, who cares who the face of the firm is? It's still being held by a holding company that is not diverse and has no interest in investing. I personally call them ripe investments. But if the holding company does not look like this room, how can you possibly expect the firm that's being held by the holding company to change the game? And so we have to ask those questions. We have to make demands. And damn it, you can make whatever demands you want to. It's your right. It's your space. Take it up. And so we got to ask those questions when we're looking at firms. Like when you're looking at a private investor, obviously you have a little bit of a window that's, what's behind the curtain. But that's the only way we're going to change it. Liz Georgi is doing some amazing things with Suna to ensure that there are equity clauses in those investment documents at the firm level. And so it's also saying, okay, let's see your documents and ensure that there's equity within those contracts. Not equity as like equity, like DEI equity. I know we're talking all kinds of equity, but ensuring that you've got some of those legal clauses and that those contracts are written too to be to the benefit. And a lot of that's systemic. So ask those questions too and be like, well, what the hell system am I playing in? And what are those systemic barriers? And how do I interrogate this system? Because it too is a system that is meant to exclude and build wealth for the top 1%. So change that shit up.
And can somebody join me on this side?
Yeah, somebody needs to join Sara.
Can someone join me on this side? Because it's hard being the only woman and the only woman of color ever.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the next, like I was saying, that's the next phase, right? We need to give women the power to, not the power, we don't need to give women power. Did I just say that? Somebody fire me immediately. Wow, it's late. We need more women to step up with their money. That have made it, that have the means, we need them to step up with their money. And that is something that we at TAR are going to be working on over the next couple of years, is to help to find some of those voices and get them amped up about it and join you at the table.
Please.
Yeah?
It's hard out here for a pimp.
I'm going to go 2 more. All right, with that, one more question. Oh, this one, right.
So I've gone down the path of raising capital, and you don't know what's going on in the back room, and you don't know that you're being asked to play a completely different game than the white man that came in before you. So I guess my question is, how do we detect the signals? What are things that we should be looking for that we are not being treated fairly? Because I definitely was not, and really had some major challenges, and I don't know how to tell when they're screwing me. To be not PC.
They like to ask you different questions. It's typically the questions that they ask you are much more about you personally versus the actual business. And actually, I'm probably not the most qualified person to ask in this room about that, but I do know that it is a lot of times the questions that they're asking you are not necessarily about the business itself, but more about you personally, if you're capable, if you are qualified. It's a lot of qualifying questions.
I know when I was raising, the questions that they wouldn't typically ask a man is what they would ask me. How are you balancing it? Oh, you can do both? Oh, you have kids? Oh, that must be so. It's in the way, it's in the questions that they're asking, it's in the way you're being asked. If they're not asking focused questions specific to your business, you know that immediately within a couple seconds you'll know that they're not interested. If they say too quickly, oh, you're not ready, or if they're being dismissive with your answers and they're not responding to what you're saying and to your business aspects, and if they're not diving deep into your business plan, your pitch deck, your branding, then you'll know that it's not working.
One more. Got this young lady in the jean jacket.
Thanks. One thread that sort of runs through your story to me is this really strong sense of self and showing up with your whole self, your authentic self to everything, and really believing in yourself. That really strikes me as being a really American narrative, super centered on one person. So I think I've had this conversation with a lot of friends who are not from the US, that when you come to the US, sometimes it can be surprising that people describe their accomplishments as being things that they did on their own. So I'm curious whether or not that resonates with you as someone who was born somewhere else. And also, if you could talk a little bit about what community, the role of community in your career so far has been.
Can you ask me the question again?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a two-part question. Yeah. Did you see a difference in the American culture in the way that we describe people's ascension to success, however you describe success? And then a second question, if you want to answer it, is what the role of community has been for you.
It's a great question. I'm trying to figure out how to answer this nicely. I'm going to do the sit-up. We are selfish. And it shows in how we talk to one another. It shows in how we talk about our accomplishments. One of the questions that I'll ask that stumps 99% of people is, who are you? And they'll start rattling off, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a this, I've had all these accomplishments. But I didn't ask you all that. Who are you? What is your purpose in this world, and what exactly are you trying to build? I think for me personally, it's what makes me a really good investor is I'm not looking at just what this person has accomplished or what their title is. It's what are they doing it for? Why the F do you wake up every day? Who are you trying to talk to? Same thing with being an influencer. An influencer without actual influence, I'm just posting pictures. I'm just some cute girl on social media. As an investor, am I in it just to make money? No. What community impact can I make? I know that for my goals personally, I need the resources to be able to do them. And let's be real, we need the money to do it. But if there's no why, if there's no North Star that's bigger than you, you might want to reevaluate who you are and reevaluate what your goals are with your business. So yes, like for me being Ethiopian, everything is community-based. Everything is a village when it comes to businesses. My dad had a business growing up, and we worked in the store, and my aunts and my uncles, and everyone chipped in. I think part of the thing that we struggle with as a society is we're isolated, and being an entrepreneur is so lonely. There has to be a village. We have to find our community. That's one of the things that I love about this, and it's why I couldn't say no, is what are the chances we get this many women together, you get to network, you get to talk, you get to build, you build your community. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'll go to an event and someone won't speak to me, but the one person who did asked me a question, so I gave her access to my network. She's now raising $5 million. But it takes a community, like you have to ask for help. There can be no ego. And if the title becomes bigger than what my mission is, then my place in the world is just an absolute waste. It can't be about me.
Wow. That we didn't plant her, I promise.
I know.
But I think that is such a great question to end on, because that is why we are here tonight. It is because Simone and I met 4 years ago. She had a community and I had a community, and now we both have communities again, and her community is inside my community. And that was a lot of communities. And we all have to remember that we cannot do this alone. That is the reason I built Tara. I was tired of feeling alone, so I built something so people had to come. It was like, I'm gonna have to throw a party and you guys need to come every day. But it really is this conversation of, now that we are done with doing dumb things on Zoom, like, how do we get back to this sense of community? And I know it's hard to come out on like a Wednesday night and you're tired and you've been out all, I get it. I do the same thing, but every single time I show up, I am so happy that I did, because I've either learned something, I've met someone, I have had somebody cheer me up, cheer me on, all of those pieces. And I think that what you're talking about is all of the pieces that have threaded together is really this idea of, it is the people that you surround yourself with, and that you are not a pillar by yourself. And that is beautiful. So thank you so much for coming tonight. This was so special. Simone, I'll let you close this out.
Yeah, I thank you all for making this deposit in your network. Thank you all for making this deposit with one another. Hopefully you all have exchanged contact information with some people here. You can always count on the Colorado Women's Chamber to be a cheerleader for all of you. That is our core purpose, is to advance women in work. And so you have community with us. As Kate said in a very strange way that I liked, we're inside of her community.
Actually, it's weird.
We outside, but we inside.
that was not a good extemporaneous moment.
I liked it. I kind of felt it.
Did you feel like you're inside of my community?
I did.
I love it.
But that is really what it is. We're stronger together. And so you know that you've got us as community. I gotta shout out the OG though, because I see her here. And so the OG Lizelle, Women Who Start Up, when you talk about building community in Colorado, don't be trying to get invisible now. You was all loud heckling. Now you're trying to act demure and quiet. And so I call Lizelle out, though, too. And then Pat, like all of us, Patty, we've all been here because you do have community. So on those lonely days, even if it's just merely, oh, shoot, we used to have a thing with our socials. But if it's those lonely days where you just want to glean some inspiration or find community or find connection, if it's going to our social and just seeing what's going on, if it's coming to Tara, if it's seeing what Sara has going on, whatever it is to feel that connection, do it. And just kind of get that energetic boost in knowing that you have a community of women that's cheering for you, and you got resources in us too. And so just don't forget to ask for help. We're stronger together. I always say that when I read it. I'm like,
Stronger
together. So thank you all for coming out. Sarah?
And so that I don't get fired from my job, thank you to Colorado Thrives for sponsoring this track.
Got it.
Thank you all so much, and thank you, Sarah. That's a wrap.